he didn't have much of a chance, and he burnt alive in a deer's antlers. Hi and welcome to part 2 of the Weird Deaths Iceberg historical version. If you haven't seen my part 1, what are you even doing here? Well, hello there, this is I again from the day after editing, just chiming in to say that I got a comment on my last video that I was being very disrespectful. The thing is that I really cope with sad topics and things in general with humor. So if you don't enjoy the fact that someone mixes some jokes with some dark topics, then this is not the channel or the video for you. So tomorrow I'll be uploading a video introducing myself since I came over 1k subscribers, and I'll tell you all about me, how I came to this point, and the things I've been through in life, and answer any questions that you leave down in the comments. So please do that. So let's get into the video again. No perkele, tappar alla mina saker. I'm dropping my things. So the first entry on our tier 3 is the dancing plague. It happened through July to September in France, when a woman called Frau Trofea suddenly just started dancing uncontrollably. Her moves must have been enchanting enough for the rest of the village to join in on the fun, but the fun did not last, and it's rumored, I guess, because this was in 1500s, that 400 people during the dancing plague danced themselves to death. So this was either a case of mass hysteria. Smarty-pantsy people of the time said demonic possession, and smarty party-pantsy people from today said that it could have been a fungus, an ergofungi, that made them all mad, of course, and they all started dancing. A fun fungus to have. After that, we jump to Henry Taylor. In 1872, Henry Taylor was a pallbearer. I think that's the right word. He was carrying a coffin of someone recently cancelled, and whilst doing it, he stumbled upon a rock which made him stumble, which in turn made everyone else carrying it just let go of the coffin, and it fell straight upon poor Henry Taylor. Pretty ironic. From that, we jump to Basil I. He died in the year 886 when he was out hunting and somehow got stuck in a deer's antlers and was then just dragged by the deer for 25 kilometers. But this did not kill Basil. He died of a fever later on caused by the dragging. Then we have Charles II of Navarre. He was ill, and we all know that medical practices way back in the days weren't always the best at all, even the slightest bit of the best. He asked his physician what to do, and he said that he should be wrapped into an alcohol-soaked big cloth, and a handmaid was there to sew him into this alcohol-soaked cloth, so he was an entire little cocoon of fabric and alcohol The handmaid noticed that there was a loose little thread and we can't have that. And instead of just cutting the thread, she went ahead and tried to burn it off. And you know, fire and alcohol don't mix. He didn't have much of a chance and he burned alive inside of his little cocoon. Then we jump to another one of those cool guy daredevil types. His name was Bobby Leach.
Leach. Bobby Leach or Leach? Yeah.
Either way, he was a stuntman. He was the second person to jump down the Niagara Falls in a barrel, but in the end, in 1920, he died from slipping on an orange peel, got gangrene, and perished. The Niagara Falls couldn't take him, but goddamn, those orange peels, man. Then we move on to my home country again. We're in Sweden, but also Denmark. Ragnar Lodbrok. He was a Viking, and he was king, you could say, of Sweden and Denmark. And at some point he went down to what today is called London, and there he was thrown into a pit of snakes. Yeah, and that's how he succumbed. And then we move on again. This time we have a Greek man that I think that I can actually pronounce. Yay! Weirdly enough, tier 3 doesn't have a lot of weird names from Greece, like last video. This was Draco of, I'm gonna say Draco of Athens, and I'm just gonna imagine him as Draco from Harry Potter, because that's fun. He was a politician, and from all accounts, he was a very well-liked politician at that, because he died whilst on a stage. The people of Athens were so enthralled that they threw cloaks and hats on him, as was the custom, to show appreciation. And this actually became too much that it smothered him. He died of too much appreciation. And then we move on to Molière, known as a great comedian. He was on stage performing his last play, known as The Imaginary Invalid, ironically enough, when he suddenly collapsed, coughing and hemorrhaging. He did not want to stop the play though, and like just to give the picture, there were ballet dancers dancing around the stage and stuff like that, and he continued until he at the end collapsed again, and of course went ahead and perished just a few hours later. And we end tier 3 with the Molasses Flood victims. In 1919, there was this, in Boston, large storage tank filled with 2.3 million US gallons. On an extremely warm day, the structure collapsed, and the mass of this sticky, sugary molasses flooded down into Boston. You can just imagine the humans, the cars, the animals in the way of this flood. They were pretty much stuck in place and couldn't do heckin' anything. 21 people died and 150 people were injured during this insane tragedy. So that was tier 3. Let's jump into tier 4 and the last tier for today. We're starting off with the Greek. Let's see if I can pronounce it. It's Sharonodas. damn it. Mr. Greek man Charonodas was a politician, and he made laws. And one of the laws he made was that you couldn't carry any weapons into public assembly. This would be his own downfall, because one day he forgot that he was actually carrying a sword into public assembly. Not wanting to be the kind of person who doesn't follow his own principles, he promptly took his sword and cancelled himself then and there. Whew, what a guy. Then we go ahead into the next Greek on tier 4. It's Claudius Drusus, not too hard to pronounce. Died in 1882 AD. His age during his cancellation is unknown, but a contemporary writer wrote as thus. Just before manhood, he choked on a pear he playfully threw up and caught with his mouth. How small were these pears during 20 AD? And we move promptly on to France, and there we have Louis III of France. He went ahead and cancelled in 882. He was chasing a girl around his father's estate. He was 17 and hormonal at the time. Whilst chasing said girl, he failed to notice how low a door was and hit his head, which of course resulted in his demise. Otherwise we wouldn't have him here on this list. And then we move on to maybe the least historical death that I've had on my list so far, Sherwood Anderson. He was an American writer, and whilst he was on an adventure somewhere, being a cool writer man, he started feeling pains in his stomach. Turns out he had swallowed a toothpick, and it had caused enough damage to cause an infection, which led to his exiting from this world. We jump down to 1809, and a man who really liked the circus. His name was John. Now I can't even pronounce John. John Cummings. He had went to the circus. That was like a thing. Everyone loved a good old circus. And he had seen some people who swallowed swords. And he was like, awesome, I want to do that thing. And he started doing it. First he swallowed 3 swords. Went fine. They passed through his system. And then he swallowed 14 of them, which also passed through his system. I'd say he was pretty dang lucky. For kicking heck. It wasn't until he swallowed 20 swords in one go that 4 years of pain and suffering began. At the end of these 4 years, I don't even need to say what happened, and the autopsy found the fragments of said swords in his stomach. Then we go to Empress Elizabeth of Austria. She was not only known for being very beautiful, she had long hair and a fashion symbol of her time. That didn't stop people from trying to hurt her, because why would it? There's always people who want to do that. So a man had found out where she was out walking, and he staged a little stumble, and he played it off that he stumbled like next to her, but in reality he had a very small knife that he stabbed her with. And Empress Elizabeth actually didn't notice anything for quite a while. She kept on walking because her corset kept the blood from exiting for quite a while. So she walked for a bit before she actually collapsed and went her way into better pastures. Yeah. Then we have Valencian the First, 375 AD. He was actually a Roman emperor. Like, give way for the Romans this time. Either way, he just died because he was so angry that he yelled too much and had himself a stroke. Yeah, that's a kinda it. But it's weird for a Roman emperor to die in such a natural way, I guess. Yelling, not getting stabbed 40 times in the back, you know. Next one on this tier is Isadora Duncan, an American actress. In 1927, she was strangled to cancellation by her own very, very, very long scarf that got tangled into the automobile that she was riding. That's pretty much it. Sad. And then we come to Porsia, or Porsia. Porsia. Well, let's say Porsia. In 43 BC, she swallowed a bunch of hot coal in a bid for self-cancellation, which succeeded. Ouch. And then we come to the absolute last entry on tier 4 and the last entry for this episode. This takes place in 1909. A young teenager, only 15, called George Spencer Millet. During these days, young 15-year-old boys had jobs, and so he worked at an office. This was actually his 15th birthday, nonetheless. And he went to greener pastures by all the females in his office decided that they wanted to give him birthday kisses. He wasn't thrilled and tried to run away from this pile of ladies hunting him down through the office until he sadly tripped over and he had an ink eraser in his pocket that stabbed him in the heart, killing him instantly. I guess that is a very unfortunate way to go way too young and a great way to end part 2 of the iceberg. So yeah, that was part 2 of the Weird Deaths Iceberg historical version. Let me know down below how you liked it. Please like, subscribe, share, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss my next upload. You're all amazing. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time. Giant thanks to all my lovely patrons and check down below for ways to support my channel. Thanks!